Panthers have filled holes all over the defense, and they've even added some pieces on offense, but they have not brought in a wide receiver during free agency. What's the plan for wide receiver moving forward here in Carolina? We'll talk about that here on this weekly Friday mailbag edition of Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because on Fridays like today throughout the offseason, I'm right here answering your weekly Friday mailbag questions. So all you got to do is either at me or DM me over on Twitter and at me over on Blue Sky to get your questions in for next week's edition of the weekly Friday mailbag right here on Locked On Panthers. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, and it has been Week 1 of free agency for the Carolina Panthers. Legal negotiating period starting on Monday, where they did the bulk of their work signing some free agents, then at least agreeing to terms of free agents on Monday. Then on Tuesday, a little quieter, we're reworking some deals, having to release some players, and then still adding to the roster. Wednesday, officially the beginning of free agency. Then Thursday, Nothing at all happened here in Carolina, at least unless I missed something, but nothing really big happened at all. And now we're here on Friday wondering what the next steps are going to be, as it has been a very quick free agency period to the point where it got to free agency, like it was already over. So we're still waiting to see what Carolina may do. And there's some questions about what they're going to do at wide receiver, as that has been a spot that I certainly have highlighted as something that Carolina should be looking to do as far as upgrading and trying to find a wide receiver one. There's been conversations about at least trying to elevate the floor of that room, and I don't think they've done that thus far, as there have not been any signings at the receiver position as of 10:45 a.m. here on Friday morning Eastern time. Let's start off talking about the wide receivers, as Joseph has a question saying, on the topic of number one receivers, everyone wants to talk about trading for T. Higgins, which we probably would be outbid for by the New England Patriots. Then everybody wanted DK Metcalf, but why aren't we talking about a trade for Brandon Ayuk there in San Francisco? San Francisco seems to be ready to move on from him, has a team-friendly deal, at least for 2025 and 2026, and seemingly not that much needed in trade compensation. Just curious your thoughts. So let's go back to what Dan Morgan said a couple of weeks ago at the Combine as far as a basis of the conversation about wide receiver to be had here in Carolina. He said, quote, "I love our wide receiver room. I think with Thielen, who it was announced on Wednesday, right after, of course, I was live here, and that happened on Monday too, and I was talking about Mike Jackson and when that deal might come through or not come through, and it happened immediately after I got off the air live on YouTube. Same thing happened on Wednesday, as Adam Thielen has agreed to come back on a rework deal for his 12th season in Carolina. So assuming or 12th season in the NFL. So I'm assuming they gave him more money. The details will probably come out here in the coming days. I don't know if anyone's reported it. Haven't really paid attention. So I'm like, okay, cool. Adam Thielen's coming back. How much money he's getting? Not really all that concerned about that. He's back for another year. That's all that really mattered. But as far as all that goes, again, love the wide receiver room. Think with Thielen, Coker, Xavier. We have some guys in that room that we're really excited about. We have a young core of guys that are still developing from a fundamental standpoint, from a route running standpoint. It would be nice to find as many playmakers as possible. If we pinpoint a guy, whether in free agency or the draft, then we wouldn't hesitate to either draft or sign one. And listening to Dan Morgan, looking at his mannerisms, he didn't seem to be somebody that was pressed about trying to get a new wide receiver in here. It's not like last offseason where it was just Adam Thielen. This offseason, you have Adam Thielen coming back. You have Jalen Coker. You have Xavier Legette. You have guys who have proven to be able to make plays out there on the field, even if with Coker and Legette, it's been a small sample size, but they showed far more in their rookie seasons than you had seen from when Mingo was here and some of the other cast characters that were here in the 2023 season. So you can be excited about what you have in those two players, along with Thielen coming back, but understand that it is necessary to add somebody else to that room. And from conversations that I have had, Darius Slayton was somebody that this coaching staff liked. And unfortunately, I suppose for Carolina, maybe not for fans out there who think aim higher, Darius Slayton is staying in New York with the Giants for whatever reason, as they have no quarterback at all. But good luck to him. He got his money, and we'll see how that plays out. But as far as Ayuk goes, I don't know, man. I've never really been that enamored with the idea of getting Brandon Ayuk. And you talk about his contract situation. He signed a 4-year, $120 million extension with $45 million guaranteed at signing. I think it was just a year ago when that happened. And looking at it, the next couple of seasons, like in 2025, this upcoming year, his cap hit is only 10.7. And if the Niners trade him before June 1, it looks like they don't even save money at all. They actually lose money by doing that. So that would be an interesting situation there for San Francisco. In 2026, if a team has him on the roster, it's a $16 million cap hit. And then after that, 27, 28, $42-44 million cap hit. So it's team friendly, yeah, like you mentioned there, Joseph, in 25 and 26, but it becomes very unfriendly in 27 and 28, where $42-44 million cap hit, and you can cut him and save $39 million. And I'm imagining whether he's on San Francisco at that time or not, like he will be somebody they might be looking to cut by that point in time, or at least try to figure a way to restructure that deal, rework it for things to be opened up. And he's been a good player, obviously, because he would not get paid the amount of money he got paid had that not been the case. You look at 2022, 1,000 yards receiving, 2023, 1,300 yards receiving. That was kind of the conversation last offseason, whether San Francisco was going to pay him or if he's going to be traded, and all of that went down. And eventually he did get paid. And he's been in, was he AP All-Pro or no? Because Pro Football Reference is saying no, they have the AP next to him. Yeah, he was an All-Pro in 2023. So good player, would absolutely be beneficial for Carolina. There's questions about his ability to separate, as you can also look at the NFL Next Gen stat separation number, and it's 2.4. And that's the same as T. Higgins, who's somebody I have advocated for as well. And hell, Darius Slayton, who this staff liked, 2.4. And David Moore last year in Carolina had a 2.3. AJ Brown, who's terrific, 2.1. So one way to look at it, obviously, but that is maybe not the most encouraging number. I'm looking at a lot of guys. DK Metcalf, 2.6. Mike Evans, 2.5. Plenty of guys. Drake London, 2.4. Plenty of these guys made plays. And Legette's down here at 2.6. So that was a big topic conversation last year as far as the lack of separation, ability for these guys to get open, make some plays. I'm not that interested in Ayuk. I feel like right now what Carolina needs to do is just focus on developing the guys that they have and then drafting somebody and developing that player and hoping that they can be a top-tier receiver, at least help elevate this room moving forward. I just don't look at what's available out there right now and also what it might cost to go get players and think that that's the right decision for them at this point in time. I'm kind of over the whole situation trying to go get a vet. Just rock with the young guys, go get maybe another guy in the draft, and then develop. Like, that's the problem. When you get rid of DJ Moore, that's a homegrown talent. And it's not as simple as going to find another one of those guys right out there on the market. At least that's what has been found out so far. And I've not really seen any concrete reporting that says Carolina made an offer for DK Metcalf. I have seen stuff out there on Twitter. Again, not concrete. So we'll see what they try to do. But right now, it does not appear that they are it's not like they're disinterested, but they don't seem to be that like aggressive in doing so. I don't know. Christian, with most of the top wide receivers off the board, I wonder if the Panthers are going to go offense with the number 8 pick. Tetairoa McMillan would be available according to most mock drafts, and we could get a strong number 1 to pair with Legette, while Thielen and another veteran, Lockett, help coach them into longer-term starters for us. Do you think the Panthers have plugged enough holes on defense with free agency for this? What do you think? Well, defensive tackle, yeah, they're good there. I think after adding Bobby Brown III and also adding Tershawn Wharton with Derek Brown coming back, with Ashawn Robinson coming back, Shai Tuttle coming back on a reduced salary, I think they're fine there. You look at linebacker, adding in Roseboom, that helps with the depth and the competition at that spot. They'll probably need to add more as far as just other guys be like special teams kind of aces and all of that. But I think with the 3 linebackers that they have, they're probably set right there. Corner, I would think they'd want to add somebody via the draft. I've seen a lot of mock drafts. You point out there, a mock draft, like a lot of them have brought up Carolina getting somebody in the second round there at 57th overall. That's a corner. So I would think that with JC back, Mike Jackson back, you would want to try to find another corner to help those guys out on the outside as well. That's a rookie. Shaw Smith-Wade's back. Safety, certainly need to draft somebody. Mike Day was up here with us last week talking about that he believed they were going to double dip and they were going to sign somebody, which they did, Trevon Moehrig, and then they were going to draft somebody at safety as well. So they have plugged, as far as starting holes, I think they've done that. For the most part, you can question whether Demani Richardson should be starting at safety. But as far as starters go, I think they're probably set there. But as far as like edge rusher, I know they added Pat Jones the second. That is a upside play, much like DJ Woonem last year. Clowney was fine. Did not have the sack totals that he had in Baltimore, which I did not expect to happen at all. So I wasn't really disappointed in what his output was a year ago. I still don't look at that group and feel like they're that great, to be honest with y'all. I think they can be better next year, adding in Jones and with DJ Woonem hopefully being healthy for a full season and just year two of Clowney in this scheme. So I would expect that they'd be better. I just still don't look at that as like a fearsome trio at all. And you could add in DJ Johnson in there as well. And that's not scary, at least in my opinion, when looking at things. So I still think that at 8, they should be going to get an edge rusher, and Jalen Walker is who I'm looking at right now. That could change, of course, but right now, that's how I feel. And they could, at 8, take a receiver. And Field Yates, actually, of ESPN, he went out there earlier this week after looking at some of these free agency moves, and he said this is who the top 10 should be as far as who these teams take. And coincidentally, Carolina's drafting in the top 10. He went out there and said impact pass rushers should not be overlooked here, even though Carolina has added both Pat Jones and Bobby Brown III. But the Panthers must also continue to invest in offensive players around quarterback Bryce Young, which is something I've been saying to y'all. They haven't added to the receiver room, and there are big question marks there, which I agree with. McMillan is my top-rated wideout and has a 6'4" size and smooth route running ability to emerge as Young's top target in relatively short order. I like Tedero McMillan. If you watch him against Travis Hunter, the guy won plenty of reps and played pretty damn well against him in that matchup. And he was Arizona's offense last season. Truly was. It was just throw it up to Tet. Let's see what happens. And he was able to make plays. Not able to help them win enough games, of course, after they had an 11-win season the year prior. But still, I really like Tedero McMillan. I don't necessarily love this receiver class. I just don't think at 8, that's a pick right now. It could be. And if that's what they decide to do, it's been claimed to be a deep edge rusher group. I'm just wondering just how deep will it be when Carolina comes back around at 57 when trying to take a player. And if they don't end up with an edge rusher, I don't know, early on, then I feel like that would be a failure because I don't look at this group and think that it's good enough right now. But there certainly are question marks about that receiver room right now, just with Legette coming off an injury, probably going to miss a decent amount of time this offseason, which is key for his development. Coker coming back, where there's a lot to feel good about that. And then Thielen coming back for another year, but he's also 35. And you have to wonder, after last year, the injury, can he hold up and all that? So it's a group that, you can feel okay about. I don't know if you feel really good about it. That's all I'll say, even though Dan says he loves his wide receiver room. Do you really? Right now, he's showing he does, but I do think that they're going to make some moves there at some point in time, whether it be the draft or here in a second wave of free agency. All right, let's take a quick pause, come back and answer more of your weekly Friday mailbag questions right here on Locked on Panthers. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, when you win, when we win, we all get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers weekly Friday mailbag, closing out the first week of free agency here in the NFL. And today's a big day as there's a lot of players out there around the league who have roster bonuses due. And typically, most of those guys have been dealt with. Miles Sanders, one of those in Carolina. The Panthers wanted to rework that deal, and they were not able to come to terms with Miles Sanders, and they moved on. And they've since signed Rico Dowdle, who ran for 1,000 yards last year, career year in Dallas. And apparently, Cowboy fans are not happy about that. And anytime Cowboy fans are upset, which is like all the time, I am happy, you are happy, we are all happy about that. So excited to see what happens there. And speaking of Rico Dowdle, Seth is asking, with the signing of Rico Dowdle, do you think that eliminates the possibility of drafting a Cam Scatterboo or another one of these talented backs in this draft class, or could you still see the Panthers drafting another back? Let's go back to 2 weeks ago. During Combine Week, had Damian Parson on the show of Locked On NFL Draft. Listen to that show where we listen to favorite podcasts and watch over on YouTube. Co-host that with Keith Sanchez, who we've had on the show before. And he talked about the Panthers after watching Jonathan Brooks re-tear his ACL, that they should draft another running back because of how deep this running back class is. And I was surprised to hear that. Now, the Panthers, I felt still, whether they drafted the running back or not, need to go get a veteran running back to back up Chuba Hubbard or have Miles Sanders stick around. And Miles Sanders did not stick around, and they did go get Rico Dowdle. And now the Panthers have two 1,000-yard running backs from a season ago here in this backfield in Charlotte. And I'm excited about what this could be. I know a lot of people talk about, could you get Smash and Dash back again? Well, it was going to wait until probably 2025 for that to be a possibility, considering Brooks was recovering from that ACL. And now with Dowdle coming back healthy and with Chuba coming back healthy, maybe you get that here this upcoming season. And Dave Canales truly is stubborn about running the football, something that they certainly were not in 2024 during his first year here in Carolina. But looking at it, it is a great class. I mean, Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton are probably both going the first round. No, they will not be available at any point to Carolina. I mean, I guess at 8 they would be, but I don't think that's what you're trying to do. It would be wild if they do that. And you know how I feel about the running back spot. You already paid one, and you just brought another one in. Like that would make no sense to me to take one at 8. I don't think that's what you're asking. I don't think that's what anyone's suggesting. Well, I'm sure there's someone out there suggesting that, because there's always someone out there suggesting something. But that, to me, would not be the correct decision, even though, like, very good players. Love Omarion. Think Ashton's really good as well. You got Trevion Henderson out there. You also have Quinshon Judkins, Ollie Gordon. People forgot about him. He was really good in 23. Last year, it was a complete bleep show there in Stillwater under Mike Gundy, who somehow still kept his job there at Oklahoma State. He's somebody to remember. Ollie Gordon is a really good class. Like, there's a guy down at UCF, right? Then they have who's it, Giddens at Kansas State. A lot of really good backs, to where if you want a back, this is the year. Which is kind of like Carolina. Man, I know you saw what you had there in Chuba and in Miles. It felt like you could add somebody who could be more versatile. But damn, it's like the guy with the ACL tear, recovering, wasn't even going to be available for the majority of the season. Then he does it again. Like, they could not afford seeing that happening. And they like him. Clearly, this was the year if you're going to get it back. And, well, it is what it is. So they could do it. They could. I would think that Dowdle's a stopgap, and that gives Jonathan a chance to come back healthy. And they've signed Chuba to a long-term deal. We'll see. It will be interesting to track. I don't know. I have a hard time really knowing what they'll do in that situation. It feels like they may be patient, but this is a team that says running backs matter, so it would not be crazy if they did so. Okay, Chuck. He says, I was pleasantly shocked, in all caps, that Brady Christensen re-signed to the Panthers, but I have a question. Do you think this means that Taylor Moton's days are numbered at right tackle, and they plan to slide Brady Christensen in that role at a cheaper price? I'm just saying, I love Timo, but that's a big cap hit, and it may be cheaper to let him go. Truly curious to know your thoughts. Well, I mean, Dan Morgan talked about this a couple weeks ago at the Combine about Taylor Moton, that they were cool sitting on that cap hit, and it's $31.3 million. We talked about that numerous times up here on the show, but they're keeping Taylor Moton around. They're just not going to touch that cap hit. They're going to leave it there, and he's going to start at right tackle. And if he struggles, maybe they put Brady Christensen there again, even though last season when Taylor Moton missed time, it wasn't Brady Christensen, it was Josh Nijman who was at right tackle. So remember that when thinking about this situation. So it's a possibility that maybe Christensen gets an opportunity. I don't think there's an open competition at right tackle. I don't necessarily think there should be an open competition at right tackle. He's coming back to be a backup again, to be somebody you can come fill in at center if need be, at guard if need be, at left tackle if need be. So that was very interesting to me as well. And I was also shocked because I thought that he would get an opportunity somewhere to be a starter, but maybe that is the byproduct of him just not having a home. And I had wondered, even going to last season, how would that impact Brady Christensen once things turned around here or came around as far as free agency, not having one position that he's been playing. Like he had been playing left guard and he lost that job to Damian Lewis after he got hurt, missed the majority of 2023. And then he had to play tackle, center. Like the versatility is great, but I do think some teams are like, hey, what do you do well? Like which position are you really best at? Where can we place you? And I guess the offers just weren't there that he liked. I don't know how that played out, but I did not see him coming in here and taking Taylor Moton's role as of now. If you want to talk about Moton having one last year in Carolina and then Christensen in 2026 taking over right tackle, could see that being a possibility. Could see it for sure. All right, Travis asking, do you think the Panthers pick up one of the remaining safeties or draft? We only have 2 on the roster right now and still think that Richardson needs some veteran help to develop. Okay, well, Morg's here, of course. Demani Richardson's here in a second year after being an undrafted free agent at A&M last year and getting some starts at the end of the season. Mike K told us last week that the Panthers were going to double dip. And that's, again, what I believe, just based on what Mike said, is going to happen. And just looking at the room, should happen. Jamie Robinson didn't pan out. They've moved on from him. Xavier Woods, possibility could come back. But Fuller, they're done with that. Nick Scott, if he comes back, he's going to be a backup again, but not like a backup you want to play, a guy you want to play in special teams. Sam Franklin Jr., special teams kind of guy as well. Yes, I do think they will draft a safety. And like if I'm looking at things right now, I'm thinking that they probably go edge rusher at 8. At 57, they're going to go with a corner, and then in the third round, they'll get a safety. That's how I look at things right now. Again, could change over the next, hell, we still have almost a month and a half until the draft, which, good Lord, that's so long away. But yeah, it's obviously right now. I think they'll draft somebody. And I don't think they're going to get another salary. They might get another veteran, but I think they're really focused on getting a guy in the draft. All right. Take a quick pause, come back and answer the rest of your weekly Friday mailbag questions right here on Locked On Panthers. Ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers. A couple more questions before we get out of here on this Friday. Grayson, he is asking, which free agent signing on defense, new addition, are you most excited about and think will have the biggest impact this season? Wow. Okay. Well, when looking at things, I probably would say Bobby Brown III. Why would I say that? Because I felt like nose tackle was like one of the biggest additions that Carolina had to make. And I felt like, especially in free agency, more so than edge rusher, which it was either nose tackle or edge rusher, in my opinion, that Carolina had as a top priority, or at least should have had as a top priority entering the offseason. I felt like they needed to get a veteran there at nose tackle and that they could wait until the draft to get that premium talent on the edge. And for me, the run defense has been horrid. And I just cannot stand teams that cannot stop the run. I already watch one every Saturday with North Carolina. And it pains me to then have to turn around on Sunday and watch the same BS with the Panthers, who have given up 6 straight 200-plus rushing yards allowed to their opponents. Like, I cannot do it, man. I hate teams that cannot stop the run. That stuff just drives me insane. And my axiom is D-lines win. And if you don't have a D-line, you don't have a chance. So going out there and getting Bobby Brown III to be a run stopper, that's the one that I am most interested in, and the one that I think could have the biggest impact. Of course, Derek Brown coming back is huge as well, but you asked for a new addition. I would say Bobby Brown III coming over from LA. Last 2 questions here from Blake and Ian. Blake saying, assuming the Panthers acquire the talent they need in the draft and that free agent signings do well and everyone stays healthy enough, and this team ready for a realistic playoff run, in your opinion? I believe more than I should every year that's not going to stop me from doing the same this year. Yes, I mean, a lot of people talk themselves into this team finally taking that next step, and unfortunately are disappointed when they do not. But hell, that's what being a fan is. Ian, he says, call me crazy. I know it's been a tough few years for the Panthers, but I think we are witnessing the beginning and building of potentially the brightest future this franchise has ever seen. Dan is being aggressive but responsible. These offseason moves have been awesome. I believe that if Bryce is able to build off of last season and they fix the struggling defense, the division is a lock this upcoming season. What are your thoughts? I don't know about the division being a lock. So, yeah, there's hope, obviously, in the NFL, better than any league in North America, maybe across the world, is able to build hope in franchises. Maybe the Browns don't have a ton right now. Looking at their situation, what if they draft a quarterback? Then hope will be restored there. In Cleveland, there are dire situations all across the league, but every single off season, fan bases are able to talk themselves and, hey, this could be the year. If we're able to stay healthy, this guy that we sign lives up to his deal, get some breaks here. Yeah, this could be our chance. I'll just say this. Last offseason, they had to focus on the offense clearly after it was atrocious. Bryce Young did not show the Steph Curry that they were trying to equate him to as far as playing the quarterback position, which is an interesting way to have described things. Either way, like, it didn't work out with Bryce year one, and they didn't have a lot around him. The offensive line was banged up. I still wonder, had Brady and had Austin been healthy all season long, is the O-line as bad as it was? I highly doubt that, but the depth clearly was an issue. They fixed that issue with the offensive line by paying Robert Hunt and paying Damian Lewis. And did they overpay? Possibly, but does it really matter when the Panthers offensive line goes from being an absolute travesty and giving up 45 sacks last year in 2023 to giving up 25 this past season, as far as what they were responsible for according to PFF? That's 20 sack difference. That is the difference between winning and losing games. And yeah, they had their moments at the end of the season, especially against Dallas, but the O-line was improved, which improved the running game. And having a consistent running back this past season in Chuba Hubbard, that helped. Having receivers who could get open and could catch the ball, that helped as well when bringing in Legette, bringing in Coker. And even when Thielen missed time, they still were able to move the ball down the field. And Bryce had confidence and was much better after being benched. So you saw what having a competent offensive line did. And Dan Morgan went out there and said this a couple weeks ago, like, if you don't have a line, offensively, defensively, you don't really have much chance in this league. And the Panthers didn't have much chance in 2023 because of that. And they had a better chance in 2024 because they got the offensive line figured out. Now, defensive line-wise, they had issues, but because Derek Brown is coming back this upcoming season, and the fact that they've added Bobby Brown III and that they have added Tershawn Wharton, this should be a better defense based solely off of the fact that the defensive line should be improved. Because when a defensive line is able to hold up, that helps the linebackers when it comes to filling gaps. That helps the secondary as well. Najero's not someone who likes to play a lot of press coverage, likes to sit back. So that gives them more time as well. I just think that it all starts up front. I felt that way offensively. You can sit here and talk about the quarterback and the receivers and all of that and what they do and do not have. If they don't have the offensive line, it doesn't really matter what else they have. And defensive line, J.C. Horn getting paid, all that, that's cool. Doesn't really matter if they're not stopping the run. And if they're not getting pressure and he's being left out there on an island and he's having to always try to make those plays. Like, I guess that's why you're getting paid in the first place, but it all starts up front. And I felt like The offensive line being improved would make them a better offense and give them a chance. And I feel like the defensive line being improved will make them a better defense and give them a chance. Do I mean that do I believe that has them locking up the division easy? Does that mean that I believe that this is going to be their chance to make a realistic playoff run? Not necessarily, but if you're good on the offensive line, which I think they are, and you're dramatically improving the defensive line with a top 5 defensive tackle, I would think that, yeah, this is a team that's going to be taking a closer step to doing that. Let's see how things play out. But I do think there's a reason to be hopeful. But for me, I ain't doing that. I'm not going to predict that this is going to be a playoff team. For me, they're going to have to do it first. Because I've gone out there on a limb and said, oh, yeah, they're going to do this and that. No. For me, they're going to have to show it out on the field before I ever go out there and say, this is going to be a playoff team. I'm not saying a preseason. They're going to have to go out there and show it to me. So in the middle of the season, if they're showing it looks like they're going to be a playoff team, fine. But until then, nah, they're going to have to prove it. I'm not going to go out there and say, yeah, this is it. They got it this year. No. Go do it. Show me on the field, because I've seen it every year. Happens every offseason. A lot of them are just not warranted. Like last year, people were saying, oh, maybe they can get the 10. No, they're not getting 10 wins. That was never going to happen. This year would be more warranted than the last couple of seasons, but still, let's see what they do in the draft. Still plenty of time to go before we need to make any sort of judgments that way, because the roster is not even fully built for even training camp. So good start to the free agency period and this part of the offseason, but all that still, in my opinion, is TBD. All right, it's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours, Julie and Council. Again, subscribe or follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julie and Council, over on Twitter at Julian Council and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because on Fridays like today, throughout the off season, I'm going to be answering your weekly Friday mailbag questions. All you got to do is either at me or DM me and get those questions into me right now. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding, and I'll talk to y'all on Monday.